Hello there and welcome to the Live Lounge here at the Fastmarkets Middle East Iron and Steel event in Dubai. I'm Georgia Tolley and I'm delighted to say that we are broadcasting here from right in the middle of the event, and as a consequence we're getting to speak to a huge number of truly fascinating individuals from this industry. And I am thrilled right now to be joined by Dr. Salam Al Sharif, who's a really prominent figure in the metals recycling industry. He's the Director of Advocacy at the Dubai Recycling Group, which falls under Dubai Chambers. He's also been recognised twice in Recycling International's list of top 100 most influential recyclers. Now, with a background in civil and metallurgical engineering, an executive MBA from Cambridge, and a doctorate in business administration, he's been a driving force in shaping the future of recycling and sustainability. He's also chairman of Sharif Metals Group, and he's also served as a chairman of the Bureau for International Recycling for the last 13 years. He's a founding president and a patron of the Bureau of Middle East Recycling and the founding chairman of the Recycling Association of Africa. He's a busy man, but he has made time for us today. Dr. Al Sharif, an absolute pleasure to have you join us here on our sofas. How are you?
I'm doing very good. As a matter of fact, thanks for having me here on your show. It's a great opportunity, so here we go.
Yeah, here we go. And let's start, in fact, from the beginning, Dr. Al Sharif. What actually sparked your interest in the recycling industry? Because I know it started at quite a young age.
Well, the fact is it runs in the family. My grandpa was a coppersmith back in the 30s, and my dad, he was the only son of my grandpa, so he had to help him out. He had to quit school on the 4th grade to join my grandpa selling his copper households and stuff, and then he decided that's not a long career for him, so he learned the foundry business at the young age. Then he joined the Ministry of Public Works as a foundry, if you like, employee, and then he took the supervision in less than 2 years, and he said, wow, let's get our own little scrap recycling facility. As when I was born in 63, I was raised with a little bit of copper utensils around me, cocks and faucets coming from here and there, and by the time I grew up earning or trying to get some pocket money, he says, I'm not giving you pocket money for free. You gotta join the yard and work with the laborers. I was like, is that a child abuse or what? Then I learned to have really how to earn the money, working with the laborers, coming with dirty hands. With the good news was I was earning much more than my peers on those days because I had the deep pockets and hey, I earned it. So it's not like somebody's giving away. So it runs in the family, and it was something that I was proud that I started at the young age. That helped me out after the Bachelor of Science graduation. I graduated when I was 21. That was earlier than my peers. I started up my business here in the UAE in '86. I opened my yard. I lived in a porta cabin. Okay, for some time it was a rough ride, which was my choice, by the way. Then after getting married, well, you know what? I passed the buck to my kids. I said, no pocket money, boys, go and earn it like your dad did. But I was a little bit more, if you like, understanding on the generation gap. I bought my son a football when he wanted a football. I said, you play in the backyard. He loved it. He went to the yard. What is this? That's not a football match, sort of a surroundings. I said, no, you'll take it. That's the carrot. Okay, and the stick is you got to earn it and get your pocket money. So it went through really generation to generation. And I can, I would say, brag and say that I'm passing the business from a grandfather to grandson. Okay, so that's the whole journey. It is a sustainable and enjoyable. You think it's a tough ride, or people think it's really something taking it too seriously, prematurely, but I think learn it at the young age, pass it on to the next generation while you can afford it. Today I can enjoy such a broadcast and I can spend a half a day out here and while business is running and making money.
I have to say, It's one of my favorite things to hear about family businesses and how the sort of generations take the industry on and from step to step. But you have really made quite extensive strides during your lifetime. You have been recognized as one of the top 100 most influential recyclers globally. That doesn't come lightly. Huge accomplishment. But that success doesn't always come easily. I imagine there must have been some obstacles along the way. Are there any key moments that you recall when you were like, gosh, this is tough, or wow, maybe I should quit and look at a different industry?
No, let me just tell you what my wife has been through when we first got married and went on the honeymoon. We went on the honeymoon. I took her to Athens, Greece.
Lovely.
And back then there were no mobiles, I'll tell you, because we got married in 87, right?
Okay.
Mobiles kicked in, the big old ones, in 89, 90, okay? So here I am with her having a nice dinner, coming back to our room, and she will find a long roll of paper roll from the door end up to the wall. And she said, what is this, honey? I said, you're marrying a celebrity, so that's all greetings for the honeymoon we're having. Okay, I was bluffing. Next day, the same old roll is getting longer. She said, honey, I gotta go through this. What is this roll is all about? She realized, and back then the faxes were not A4 size. They were a roll, okay?
I remember them. I'm old enough. Don't worry.
You don't look it, okay. But anyway, if you had the A4, if you had the normal roll having a sun exposure, it'll fade away in 48 hours. Anyway, she said, that's not greetings. It's all about what is copper, metals, steel. Honey, what's going on? I said, listen, this is the bad news. I had to attend all the faxes despite my honeymoon. And you gotta give me a break for 2 hours every day for me to reply. Then we'll carry on with our honeymoon. And that was the true story.
Wow. Have you taken a holiday over the years? Or at least in the early years, did you ever take a holiday?
Frankly speaking, I did not have holidays until maybe 5 years ago because I was involved in the business to the hardcore. And the only holidays which we could take, go to Jordan. I'm from Jordan, so we had to get all the family get together, the big family. My 3 brothers also live abroad, so they bring their sons and family members, and my sisters are out there, so it becomes a chaos in a big house in Jordan. We call it holiday, but we think it's really a lot about family obligations, getting to know each other. But a purely holiday, I didn't have the time until I had my sons taking over the business, and that kept me so in a comfortable zone that the business is passed on in the right hands to the right people, and they're really doing even better than what their dad did, okay? They're themselves, one on the Bureau of International Recycling Steel Committee, the other one is on the Plastic Committee, and here's Yusuf, my son, who is accompanying me here. He is in the E-Scrap Committee, the electronics. They're all taking lead positions in different associations. So, and also yesterday, my son had or rather this morning, had a young traders kind of a nice panel. And so it gives you the feeling you passed on the business to the right generation at the right time. Might as well earn your holiday.
Well, absolutely.
And enjoy it.
Precisely. Family's clearly very important to you. That's quite interesting. And you're obviously we just heard you're bringing your sons into the business. Is it easy to work with family members?
Oh, look, I mean, you got to work with them as part of your extended legacy. So
okay.
You really have to bring them into the vision at the young age, and that makes the mission going easier on you. Now,
yes.
Sometimes, to be honest, it has the rough rides when you really want to treat them as employees and as professionals, and then their mom get involved. She said, oh, listen, they're your sons. And I say, okay, well, I've had the rough time when I was young, and my dad treated me like an employee, and I appreciate it, okay, because I came from a professional engineering background, and I did work for as a site engineer, so I learned how that can be. acceptable when your dad bosses you around. But if you know, it gets into the new generation adaptation. You gotta be also give and take and the little flexibility. You know what I'm saying? Play pool with them. We have a pool at the table, a pool at the office premises. So after lunch, we break the ice and we shoot some pool. And we talk about a lot of family and business affairs. So it doesn't become really hardcore business and so commanding stuff. You know, so we play paddle together also on the weekends. So that gotta be also cool sometimes. And even if I go to the younger age, I forgot one thing. We had, if you like, stimulated them into the business. We got them to work with people that they would enjoy having lunch with the workers over having lunch with their family. To that extent, they were really getting into it.
That's awesome. That's really interesting to hear that. So we talked now about, legacy building and the history of the business. But of course, innovation and future-looking attitudes must be equally important. How have you managed to foster a culture of innovation within your company? Because there must be lots of people listening to this who'd like to replicate your success.
Well, I mean, the generation comes with new ideas. When I started the business in UAE, my dad was just a recycler and a foundry man. I took the business into a different platform. I introduced the Asian market. Japanese was the first market that I introduced to our metals marketing book, and then the Koreans, then the Europeans, and it went all over the world, the United States, worldwide. And I said, well, you're still an engineer, Salam, so why don't you capitalize some of your retained earnings and make a little bit of construction portfolio, if you like. So I started ditching out some of the retained profits into buying property, then developing a multi-story building. It was the first experience I had, ground plus 12, and the latest I had, it was like ground plus 35 tower. So we ended up in having a wealth of real estate as a byproduct of the recycling business, generated profit over the years. And at the same time, we were metals processors and traders. We took the vertical integration into consideration. Being a metallurgist, part of me is that we're selling the metals into Koreans and Japanese. And I said, hey, that's not very smart. You gotta add value to it. So we started making the auto industry's alloys, which goes into Toyota, Mitsubishi. So we, at one hand, when we had some of the Basel Convention trade barriers, shifting metals from one hand to another one, it needs a lot of restrictions and paperwork, including what they used to call hazardous metals, like batteries coming from the automobile, treated as hazardous because of the liquid acid which is involved. So I said, why don't we try to recycle at home? So I brought the technology where we started making the aluminum alloys out here, branded as Sharif, sending it to the auto industries in Japan, Toyota, Mitsubishi. Then we have taken the batteries by remelting them into proper ingots to go for the battery manufacturers. We took the byproduct of the plastic into the plastic manufacturers as a PP. So it is adding value to your product, and it's like you're competing against yourself in a way, but being your own consumer to the metals within the group. So in case the business doesn't help you to export out, or you get stopped out or disturbed with your transboundary movements, you within the house manage to consume your own metals, make a product out of it. It's a different profit center, and it is giving to the new generation in the family options. If you want to be an engineer, we got constructions where you can go put your helmet and safety boots and crank it up. You want to be more on the metals side. You need laboratory issues if you're so, nerdo about chemicals and stuff like that. You got the field. You want to be in the administration. Like my other son studied accounting and finance. He was in the back office for almost 5 years. He studied until he got his high CPA, and then he is now hiring the accountants and the finance people. So he is into that, and of course he misses the business, so he's hovering over that, but yet he's got the background. The other son who's graduated also as business administrator, that gives the option to the new generation. Do what you like. My daughters, for example, didn't have to do anything with metals. They're designers, engineers, and interior designers. One has having her own business now. The other one was also a designer and now turned to be a blogger. She just got married last Saturday.
That must have been expensive.
Well, not the expensive part. When one of the girls move out of your house, it's like...
Oh, it hurts your heart. Oh, I thought you were holding your heart because of the expense of the wedding.
No,
but it's the loss of a daughter.
It's moving a daughter from your house out into another family. It's like, I had tears on as I was walking her up to the stage, but then her mom says, well, I've been through it. Remember, you took me away from my family, so don't complain. It's been a happy life.
Oh, it's so lovely to hear there about the way in which you diversified your business. And that, in many ways, sounds like it was the secret of your success. I want to ask you about something you did yesterday, the CEO Summit.
Yeah.
What were some of the most sort of thought-provoking discussions or challenges that stood out for you there? Because I know there was a real feeling of collaboration of CEOs from all around the Middle East and the GCC coming together.
Definitely, it was a great meeting. This is the second meeting that I am asked to join, and you get all the decision makers on one table. They put their challenges forward, and luckily we had one from the Ministry of Economics, Her Excellency Ibtisam. She was very outspoken and helpful to the industry. She says our job is to be here to look after your challenges and iron them out, and you got to work with us to see how we can make your business more sustainable. I was very happy to hear these words. Sounded like music to my ears, and getting the cabinet level involved at that kind of CEOs, it shows how the government of Dubai is really doing marvelous in terms of working with the private sector to make sure the business is sustainable for decades to go. We did discuss about the carbon emissions. CBAM was one of the major topics, and that was one of the carbon emissions. It goes with the economics forum challenges, how we can do the global warming reduction and the carbon emissions reductions within a benchmarking system. It pours down to the industry of ours because unfortunately I can say I'm a steel conference here, and a lot of the primary producers may not like this. Steel primary producing is one of the polluting and carbon emission heavy industries. I come from the recycling background, and I say, listen, let's preserve the inner ground mining and try to utilize and bank on the urban mining. Every piece of end-of-life metal, whether it's from automobile or household or anything you name around you in constructions, gotta find its own home to it by all means of trying to put it back either into reusing or recycle it eventually into its origin metals. And the beauty of it is that the recyclability of metals is an endless process, and it does not lose any of the characteristics of the qualities of the metals, and it comes with a byproduct of saving 95% of the emissions that everybody's complaining about, saving about 75 to 80% of the energy consumption into the metal. So you end up in having literally a moving a mine up on top of this earth. The metal that once it's produced one time, it will not consume much more energy, neither emit any more carbon polluting elements into the atmosphere more than what it already had at the initial stages. So the journey down the line is very eco-friendly and it's handy. The life comes into less than maybe a few years of time. The battery comes back onto the shelf in less than, I would say now the life of the battery doesn't last more than 2 years. I'm not talking about the heavy duty vehicles, which could have you maybe 5 years. So in a year's time, it goes back on the shelf in less than 2 years' time. The canned soda pop that people drink and throw it out at the bin, if it's put in the right place, apart from the saving the environment and the carbon emissions, it come back in the shelf in less than 5 months.
Really?
Absolutely, because the cycle of can collection, preparation, remelting, it's not going to take more than 3 months. By the time it goes from the coil industry to the packaging industry and they fill it up with your soda pop, it's another, give it 2-3 months time journey. That's a 6 month journey. Okay, and why to go into the mining and exploit the underground treasures, which are not mine nor yours? They're the future generations that they have to bank on, and we gotta think smartly about it. So having said this in a very quick cycle, we realize this is the industry here, that now they've become so aware and cautious about the recycling, not because they're passionate about it, by the way. Now there has been a lot of regulatories about green billets.
And does it also make economical sense?
Oh, absolutely.
It does, okay.
Look, the thing is that they're not doing it for the sake of, if you like, slogans or bragging about it. You get the metals right from the end of life into your backyard production line. It's in a collection system. It carries the same characteristics of your end product, and with the byproduct of the eco-friendly surroundings and the practicality of having that to come to work, it does really make a lot of sense. It capitalizes a huge investment at a very quick cycle, and it employs millions of people worldwide that they could be the future leaders for such a business, which can have another revolution. With the AI in combination, you'll be surprised. I mean, what it took us those days to try to test the metal by putting the acid and try to use the conventional ways of testing the metals. If you could not tell by the eyeballing and testing, you had to scratch it, grind it, and do all the what I did those days in the labs when I learned. Now the simple spark will get you the metal generation family, where to apply, where to use, how to add the best components into your remelted bath of the metal. And it goes really in a metallurgical cycle, which has not been ever so successful and I would say user-friendly, economically sound, and it is, after all, what the entire zero waste and zero carbon emissions agendas are
it's what
really
they're calling for.
Yeah. Okay, when they meet at the top G20s.
Today, in fact, they're meeting today.
There are not a lot of people who talk about, unfortunately, the recycling. They talk about new initiatives. They talk about eating less beef. They talk about trying to walk instead of riding a bus, or having a bike instead of. That is fine, but really it's not going to get you to be practical. I mean, you got to use the airplanes, you got to use the automobiles, you got to use whatever you can. I mean, my son drives a Tesla, and I'm still an old-fashioned. I drive my, still conventional Bentley or whatever Porsche, but that is, I start like, the sound.
You like
of
the
it.
sound. I want to talk to you because we talked about the amazing positives there of recycling and recycling metals. But I've only got about maybe 3 or 4 minutes left with you. But what do you think are the challenges that are facing your industry?
Well, we are faced with a lot of challenges. First, that the understanding how important that industry is to the producers. We gotta get a mindset
Okay.
to them that the recycled product is as good and even of better compatibility of a product than having to go for the prime metals.
Why would they not think it was as good?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, when you have a big setup, they have huge investments that it could be paying off in maybe 20, 30 years.
Yes.
So they think, oh, you know what, why to fix what is broken? We want to get this out of the way, and the workers who are engineers or the complete systematic, if you like, back office or backyard operators, they're just geared up to a certain systematic issue. They don't want to get their hands messy. They think put A to B, we get the C. But the fact is that when they get the education and they get to enjoy such a conference, they realize, oh, recycling now is becoming a big deal. It has to be rather a prerequisite for our product, since if we do not produce the green billet, we are left with levies at the destination part where they'll slam us with 5% duty or whatever that could be, and they're putting a timeline. You gotta be green, not just a green. You have to meet a certain percentage of how much component of recycled product comes into your billet. And now if they start with 5 or 10%, they will walk their way up to 30% green input, which gets us into a proper, if you like, stage, since once and for all we have been acknowledged as an essential industry, working line by line and in synergy with the primary producers.
Yeah.
They look out for each piece of metal that they need it so that they'll be labeled green and get the benefit of that. And with that, it is working with the D33, Dubai 33 vision of zero waste, and Dubai's D50 zero carbon emissions. And the whole cabinet is really on their toes to see that Dubai is an environmentally sound city, and the UAE, which has become one of the major tourist hubs out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary how they're transforming the economy to be more appealing to the outside world. And I love how you touched there on this idea that, other companies are going to be required to conform to green standards, green energy standards. And of course, you guys are ready there to mop up that business, so to speak. I've got one final question, which we ask all of our interviewees.
Okay.
Ready yourself. Okay, so this conference's theme is Transform Tomorrow Together. And I'd love to hear your take on that. What does that phrase mean to you, and how do you see that influencing your specific recycling industry?
Well, Transform Tomorrow is a message that each one of us who are players in this business should not be complacent and say, oh, I'm doing a good business, my bottom lines are good, I'm comfortable. No, that's going to put you in a disruptive zone soon enough if you do not meet the environmental requirement, corporate and social responsibility, look into succession planning, look green and act green and believe green is how we can get the completely this earth is indispensable. Okay, they talk about a lot of nonsense of Mars, and this is out of the blue, but we have only one earth, population is increasing, we gotta keep a healthy atmosphere and wealthy people around us, and by that I mean wealthy. Health is the best wealth.
Absolutely.
You don't want to inhale any carbon emissions, You want a good old oxygen here, less carbons. Keep it green and don't be mean.
Yeah, I like this. What a brilliant way to end our interview. Dr. Al Sharif, it's been such a pleasure to have you join us here in the Live Lounge. And I know that all of our listeners here have really enjoyed this session. And of course, whether you're joining us in person or tuning in later, don't forget to subscribe to hear more interviews like this one. Don't miss a single episode. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and then wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you catch up on previous episodes as well. And to stay up to date on upcoming events and initiatives in the recycling and metals industries, be sure to visit the Fastmarkets events page.